Welcome to the Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zarrell. With me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick. Visit us at ihatecritics.net, everyone'sacriticpodcast.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. The handle is CriticsPod. If you want to be a Patreon supporter, head over to patreon.com/criticspod. We also have a YouTube channel if you want to subscribe there as well. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Alexa, Stitcher, all your podcatchers. Subscribe to the show, rate and review the show. We'll read your reviews on the air. And then our podcast merch tab at ihatecritics.net if you want to get Batman vs. Jesus or a Lord of the Fitbit shirt. They're all right there. This week, you sent me a picture of, it looks like a little bit of news. There's a movie called King of Staten Island, Judd Apatow, I'm assuming, coming out.
Yeah, this is Judd Apatow directing Pete Davidson, and this is a movie that was anticipated in theaters obviously this summer, and it's one of the first ones that is announced. First in terms of those that weren't already, like The Lovers. People knew that was going to Netflix and so on. This is the first pretty big title that was supposed to hit theaters this summer that is announced an on-demand release. Most of them have made the announcement that they're moving back, and the earliest we're getting is maybe July. Like I think Milan is headed for hopefully to be in some theaters that are reopened by July. But this is the first major release to announce that they're going to forgo theatrical entirely and go directly to on-demand.
And they're going to Netflix too, aren't they? Did I see that right or no?
I didn't see that. I don't know what they're doing with that. I don't know if that is part of it or not, but it could be. They could have been acquired. It's possible, but from my thought was that they were going, from what I was reading on Twitter, that they were going to go for an on-demand release,
right?
Probably $20 a purchase, and make it like a theatrical at home.
That is correct. I misread it. It is an on-demand release, June 12th. So we'll see how that plays out for them. I mean, it's the kind of movie that you don't really probably need to see in a theater,
right?
So I guess we'll see how it goes.
The talk that I was reading on Twitter from some of the more expert voices on theatrical exhibition is that what we're going to see probably is event films will remain on the theatrical roster, and movies like this that are a little bit smaller will probably just begin to skip theatrical and go directly to the on-demand model.
Yeah, I can see that. I still hope the true art house movies, the A24 type things, can end up popping in there. They're small enough that they can hang out for a week or something like that. I mean, because I'm starting to notice that watching movies at home is different, and I don't have the patience. It's been a long weekend. I'll just say that.
I want to get back to the theater so bad. Like I was actually considering shoving a UV light up my ass just to see if it would work, so I could go back to the movies.
Better than disinfectant. Oh man. I've heard people defend that. It's ridiculous. Anyway.
That is some mental gymnastics right there.
Yes, it is.
That's all I'm going to say.
Well, let's get to the new movies this week, and we'll start with what I can only assume is the biggest one, Extraction from Netflix. Chris Hemsworth, one of the Russo brothers, right? Joe Russo, or did they both do it?
I think it was both of them actually directing this one.
I got lazy and just read one name. My fault.
I mean, you don't know unless you look. The Russo brothers directing Hemsworth in a action movie for Netflix, and you correctly pointed out in a message that you sent me that this is like Man on Fire, but with a white guy, which is not wrong. Actually, this was written by Joe Russo and directed by Sam Hargrave, just to get that absolutely correct. Chris Hemsworth plays Tyler Rake. Names that only exist in movies. He's one of those only in the movies kind of mercenaries who they hire to do those jobs that nobody else can. And in this case, he's hired by a group in India. He's hired by one group of criminals in India to go rescue somebody from another group of criminals in India. And it's one of those, again, it's one of those only in the movie setup where like a drug dealer runs an entire large city and can be anywhere at any time. He has the cops in his back pocket, and there's no escaping him, and to the point where he can just destroy entire city blocks trying to kill one guy.
Unless you cross the bridge. You got to cross the bridge.
Right, you get across the bridge, it's over. He's in the same. He made it to the base. It's okay. I'm a base. You can't get me down. We make fun. I thought this was actually relatively skillful in terms of just the construction of the action scenes. It does have some suspense to it. Hemsworth is convincing enough. It's a goofy as hell movie, though. It is really over the top, complete nonsense, filled with typical action movie tropes that get on my nerves, like he got to base, or the lead actor who has basically like just unbelievable skill. Like I don't want to spoil it, but it's hard not to because
we already said Man on Fire.
Right, but was he alive at the end? They kind of said he was, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
Maybe I stopped watching it. I guess assumed he was dead. I mean, it's not definitive. It's not definitive, but they kind of indicate at the very last moment that he might still be alive. Jeez. I mean, I'll say this. It's completely watchable.
Survivor level of survival, I would say.
Right. It's a completely watchable movie. I would have never watched it if we weren't in this scenario, I don't think.
I'm right there with you.
But at the same time, I mean, it wasn't painful by any means. It was just kind of, there was enough to laugh at, but at the same time, it kind of knew you could laugh. I don't know. It knew it was an action movie. It knew it was a typical action movie. It knew it was a Netflix action movie. So it is what it is. It worked. I would have never watched it, so I don't want to say it's bad because it's not. It's just not for me.
Yeah, I like big dumb action, obviously, as a fan of the Fast and the Furious movies, so I can't really call out movies for being too stupid. Not without being a little bit hypocritical. So yeah, there's a lot about this I did enjoy in terms of the action scenes. I thought they were great. The movie is way too self-serious for all the those goofy elements that I mentioned about a drug dealer so powerful that he can run an entire city and all that stuff. I'm sure that maybe that exists. I don't know. It doesn't feel like that's something a real thing. It feels like something out of a movie. It's mostly just for the convenience of it. Right. It is very convenient that you have a character who runs an entire city who can find anybody at any moment that they need to, and that made for some relentless action. I'll grant you that it was relentless. The movie does not let up for a solid hour. There are scenes that just do not let up, but I mean every trope is in this movie. David Harbour pops up as that old friend, but can you trust him? Oh, fuck you! No, of course you can't.
Right. Well, and Hemsworth basically plays Martin Riggs meets Rambo.
Right.
He's suicidal and wants to be done, but at the same time he can't kill himself, so he's got to, I don't know.
Yeah, he's got Minority Report symptoms where he's got that, he's got the dead kid that he remembers that always drives his actions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's turn your brain off fun, I guess. Not quite big enough to be a Fast and the Furious Mission Impossible type action movie, and I think that's where I not that I really like those either, but those at least are more grand, I guess. This is just more, I don't know, it's in between that and Gerard Butler movies, so it is what it is.
Do you remember? I was kind of wondering if maybe this was a sequel to Black Hat, the movie that Hemsworth made a few years ago that nobody went to see. It's one of the biggest bombs of all time, in which he played a very similar character, only that character had supercomputer powers.
Yeah. It's hard to sequel a movie.
I'm the only person in the world who remembers Black Hat.
I don't even remember it, and we have a podcast. But it's there on Netflix. I believe it was number 1 this week on Netflix. At least last time I looked, I thought I saw it there. So if you want to watch it, it's there for you.
Yeah, I mean, big dumb action. It's there for you if you like that sort of thing.
And then over on HBO, we had Bad Education.
Yeah, wow. Talk about, I mean, this being on HBO, what a waste. Nothing against HBO, but I mean, the Emmys are fine, but this is an Oscar movie. This is a movie where Hugh Jackman should be competing for Best Actor. This movie's incredible. This is based off of a true story out of a suburb of New York City, where a school district has this flashy, high-profile superintendent who wears great suits and is really successful at what he does. Everybody loves him. And then, of course, we're going to reveal layer upon layer that this guy is completely full of shit, and that he and Allison Janney, his assistant superintendent, have been stealing money from this school district for years, millions upon millions of dollars. I loved the way they constructed this plot. It is so incredible because for a long time, you're left to think that maybe this guy's not that bad and that maybe he's going to be a good person who's kind of dragged down into a situation beyond his control. Because I didn't know about the real story. I didn't read about the real story until after I watched the movie. And so going into this, I'm kind of looking at this like from a perspective of almost like looking at it like what was that?
The Dixon movie?
Tracy Flick. What is it with Reese Witherspoon? I thought that maybe it's going to be something like that, like a dark comedy along that line. And it's not. It's a real drama that has elements of a thriller to it, but it's all based solely in character. And the little turns that Jackman does from being Mr. Nice Guy to being a nasty motherfucker just in words is just so incredibly powerful. He turns the screws on people so awesomely, and it is horror film villain level of brilliant.
Yeah, this is far and away the best thing I watched this weekend. I watched it late at night, and so already tired, and it kept my attention. It was not only do you have Hugh Jackman at, like you said, Oscar level acting, but you got Allison Janney's right there. Even Ray Romano would have. They're all going to be up for Emmys.
Right.
It is a fantastic movie. And I'm an accountant by day, so these movies are really interesting to me on top of that. And they piss me off more than any other horror movie or any other kind of thriller type thing. These really get to me more than like murder does.
Yeah.
And it's so fascinating, so frustrating, just fantastic acting, and you just wonder how this shit is possible, but it is, and it's sad and just pathetic. I don't know. It's definitely a must see if you have HBO. If you don't, get it for a month, it's worth watching.
The element about there's this a young lady named Viswanathan is her last name. I don't remember her first name, but she plays a high school reporter, and her motivation is provided by Jackman's character early on, and I loved that touch. That was a great touch to have him kind of being responsible for putting her on the path towards this, uncovering this very big story. That is not entirely based in truth. She's a composite character, but the school paper did report on this, and they were among the first to report on this, which is kind of a nice detail, and it really added something to this story. And I really liked the way they used her as a dramatic function, because yes, she's a functional character, and yes, she's used specifically to create drama, especially one very pivotal scene. But I loved the way that she performed, and especially I really liked the way they used her to create some dramatic tension that otherwise might not have been there without her.
Yeah, I have absolutely no problem, putting a composite character. I mean, Bombshell did that earlier this year with Margot Robbie's character, and you need to do that the story still happens. You just, rather than making it overlong and complicated, you just kind of combine all these aspects into one character to make it flow better, and it's a really great decision, and which just adds to this movie, that the whole fact that the student report is really what broke the story before the New York Times or anybody else did. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what it said in the movie.
It was running alongside what Newsday was doing. Basically, they were running the same story almost at the same time.
Yeah, it's just a frustrating thing. I mean, I don't know. I have no tolerance for thieves. I don't.
Yeah.
Especially at that level. And I understand how they do explain how you get there. You know, It wasn't so much about the money. It was, he accidentally used the wrong card at lunch and got away with it. And then he tried it again, and it just snowballed from there to the point where they're stealing millions of dollars. And I mean, I get it. I don't know. It reminds me of that documentary about the lady from Dixon, Illinois. I don't remember what it's called, but it was on Netflix for a while. Something about horses.
Yeah.
And I mean, how can accounting movies be watchable? But this definitely is, and I highly, highly, highly recommend it. It's worth watching.
It's about personalities and charisma and trust, and this is a guy who spent many, many years building up a positive reputation, and there's no denying, and the movie is very smart about the way that they build up his credentials. He did a lot of good things. You see him in the movie doing very good things. The way he encourages students he's a great communicator. And in the end, yes, he's abusing people's trust, and yes, he was a criminal, and he went to jail. And at the same time, he makes us. The movie isn't afraid to try and make a case that, hey, you know what? These people are desperately underpaid and underappreciated for what they do. It doesn't justify what he did or what she did, but you understand them as human beings, and that's so many movies just want to make just want to dunk on characters like this, and I thought that it was really strong that they gave these characters a very strong motivation and a willingness to force us to try and understand them.
Yeah, I do love that part about the movie too. I mean, every single one of us has horrible traits about ourselves, and all of us, no matter how bad you are as a person, has something good about you. There's something positive that you could, even the worst person in the world, you could probably find something positive about them or something good that they're good at. And this does a good job of really, like you said, finding what motivates them. And it's not all bad. It just happens that they did something really bad that went along with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's... And at the same time, when you're watching, Hugh Jackman is the main character, so it's not that you're relating to him, but you're almost frustrated for him when, he walks into the apartment and, there's a tension there, and you're buying into it too. You're feeling it, even though you want him to get caught. At the same time, you're kind of relating to what he's going through, and it's an experience where, you're kind of playing both sides of the coin. Even though you want him to get caught, you still can't help but feel the tension of that scene.
Yeah. I'm wondering if, and this is a possibility, some industry experts have floated this on Twitter, that the Academy if the Academy is willing to relax their rules to allow a movie like this to get into the Academy conversation, because trying to force movies to get into a theatrical window now is impossible. Now, the Academy will likely say, well, you could have waited and not, put it on HBO this month. You could have waited until theaters opened up again, throw it in a couple of theaters, qualify it, and then show it. But there are some who are pushing for the Academy to relax the rules because of COVID-19 and allow movies to maybe put this one out in a couple of theaters later this year and get past the rule that it aired on TV first.
Yeah,
it is rather arbitrary. It is rather arbitrary on their part.
Yeah, it's just dumb.
I mean, that's another way to put it. Yes.
Has any movie ever been nominated for an Emmy and an Oscar?
No, because most movies that play for an Emmy have to air on TV, and movies that go for Oscar have to be in theaters.
So you can't be in the theater for a week and then go to HBO the next week.
Right. Yeah. No.
Or it's never happened, at least. Does the Emmy have to be first?
Yeah.
Does it both have to be one? Would the Emmys have to be on TV first, or does it matter? I don't know. Who cares? Forget I asked.
Well, they have to submit it, but there are qualifications involved.
All right. The Sound of the Wind.
The Sound of the Wind. This is a very low-budget movie that is playing at the Virtual Cinema at the Laemmle Theater in Los Angeles. And this is a story about A man suffering from very severe paranoia, a man by the name of Lucio, played by Christian Neko Quintero. This movie is entirely about him. It's a good deal like the movie Locke with Tom Hardy, in that you're stuck with this one guy. The camera's on him the whole time, and for a lot of it, he's driving or he's just alone somewhere. From what he's told us, he has discovered a bag of money that belongs to some very dangerous people, and he's put it in his car and thinks he's going to probably try and keep it. He's on the phone much of the time with his wife or girlfriend Vanessa, played by Stephanie Rons, who's encouraging him to come home, just come home. And as we go along, as the story plays out and their conversations play out, you begin to wonder, is this guy actually believing that he has this money, or does he actually have it? And is he being chased by somebody who wants this money back, or is he just severely paranoid and delusional? And this movie is really smart about the way they play that. They set up these scenarios where it does seem like somebody is looking for him. You see lights in the window, and you see a car that seems like it might be following him. If you're paranoid, you're definitely going to think that this vehicle is following you, but you're not sure. And throughout, he runs into a guy who helps him out after he runs out of gas, and Dwayne Tarver plays the character named Chris. And this guy seems like a normal, everyday dude, and there's maybe a moment where he might have said something that indicates that he's one of the people looking for him. But was that something he actually said, or was that in Lucio's mind? And the movie uses some audio trickery to kind of put you in a place where you're just not sure. And that goes on. And the movie does have a definitive ending to that. I won't spoil it, but really smartly played. It's a really riveting film, and the lead actor is fantastic. Christian Neko Quintero. He nails this performance, and really he's being the main star here, and the guy who's on screen the whole time. He's got to nail it for this to work, and he really does. And for that, I can absolutely recommend it. There are moments, I guess, where the movie is a little too muddy, and the look can be a little bit too dark, where you're like, I can't even see anything. So there are elements that could be improved, but overall, with this really strong lead performance, I recommend this movie.
Sounds fascinating. Do you know when it would be available, or is it right now?
It's available now via the virtual cinema. If you go to the Laumley Theater website for Laumley Theater Los Angeles, they've got this movie available. I believe it's $18 if you want to watch it this weekend.
Can you just watch it on a computer, or do you have to have like a virtual reality setup?
I think you can just watch it on your computer, like you would just streaming any movie.
Nice.
Yeah, it's interesting. This is what they're calling a virtual theater experience. Essentially, the theater acquires the rights to show this on their website, and they offer you the opportunity to rent it there, and obviously it's not available anywhere else. So they've got an exclusivity, not unlike a theatrical window, and that's how they're playing this movie.
That's very cool. Do we go to the true story of the Kelly gang, or go to the dark side of the ring?
Let's go to Dark Side of the Ring so we can have the two westerns back to back.
What I thought. Okay. Dino Bravo,
Dark Side of the Ring. I didn't care about this one, honestly. I don't really know if this is that much of a mystery. He was murdered by gangsters.
Well, I guess the mystery
granted, we don't know who the gangsters were, but... Sorry?
I was going to say, I mean, we know he was murdered by whether it was a biker gang or some natives or the mob or a friend. We don't really know exactly who did it, but we know he was murdered for doing something stupid.
Right. He stole a truckload of cigarettes, apparently, or he was one of a group of people who stole a truckload of cigarettes, and he apparently kept some. And apparently this was also, this goes against his own people, but it also goes against a group of bikers who are also on the same job. It's a whole thing. But I could not keep myself interested in this. I don't want to say that this isn't compelling, because this actually happened to this guy, but I I didn't find necessarily that I had all that much of a interest in what happened, because he did this to himself. He got into this business that he shouldn't have been in, and I'm not trying to say that the guy deserved what happened to him. He didn't. Nobody deserves that. But I find it hard to spend a lot of my energy and interest and sympathy when he did this to himself.
Right. I don't feel like they. I mean, you don't have. The only thing left open on this case is you don't know who killed him. You know, the family has even. They've come to terms with it, and they're not worried about finding out who it is. You know, so
yeah.
So there's not a lot of drama there. Not that I don't want to sensation. I like that the series doesn't sensationalize any of this, but I tried to watch this 4 times, and I just got bored every time. And I just feel like I would have rather watched a full blown biography on Dino Bravo than this. You know, it was too much, not enough time with any of it. There was no drama, and they just kind of, I don't know. I ended up not caring enough about it. I kept dozing in and out, and then you mix in the fact that you got a lot of French in it, where you have to be reading, which I don't have a problem reading, but when I'm dozing in and out, I'm not reading, so now I'm missing parts of the whole thing.
Right.
And I don't know.
There's a YouTube series that's called Russell-lamia, and they do what they call their series is called Behind the Titantron. It's basically their version of Dark Side of the Ring. It's not nearly as thorough or as good, but with a story like this, their 15-minute bite-sized version of the Dino Bravo mystery is more compelling to me than the 45 minutes that Vice gave this story, because I felt like Vice was packing in a lot of stuff, like, you know, this fight that Dino got into with a hockey player on behalf of Jacques Rougeau, like that. Notable, I guess, to demonstrate that Dino was a tough guy who could fight people, but really didn't add anything to my interest level in what happened.
Yeah, and I mean, they mentioned, obviously he was such a huge star in Montreal, but they just kind of say that, and they say, well, he could have wrestled Hulk Hogan, but they backed off because they didn't want him to get cheered more than Hulk Hogan, and then it just kind of settled that and moved on. And there
could have been so much more to that aspect of it that was a little bit more interesting to me, anyway. Not to say that his death isn't interesting, but there's just not a lot of meat on that bone for a documentary.
Right, like all I know him up. He obviously was more than a job guy, but he was always kind of the monster that was losing to Bret Hart and Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan, or not. I don't even know if he wrestled Hulk Hogan, but I remember him wrestling like those guys and kind of losing. Yeah. So that's kind of how I knew him. I didn't have the history with him in Montreal, so I would have rather they spent more time building him up and really getting to know the guy, and then going in, spending the last 5 minutes on what happened to him, because that's all you really need. That to me would have been more compelling, I guess, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine there's probably a relatively dramatic story about what happened between him and Vince McMahon and the WWE, and how they made promises to him in order to steal his territory, and he tried to hold out and be the little guy battling the big guy for a little bit, and then he was forced to swallow his pride and go there and take their money, and then they screwed him over again by not giving him any type of push. Once he gets there, they don't do anything with him. They humiliate him, and there's a much more dramatic story in that than there is in his death, which isn't all that mysterious or particularly. It's tragic because he's got a family who loves him, and I understand that. But again, he put himself in a situation he shouldn't have been in.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. It's
This is definitely the weakest episode so far of Dark Side of the Ring. There's no doubt about it.
Right. I'm starting to feel bad that we're even doing this, because it's got off to such a great start, and then it's kind of been a couple stinkers in a row, and then meanwhile you got The Last Dance on ESPN. I'm like, we should be talking about that thing instead of this.
I wish I could. I've not seen any of it yet.
So good. It is so good. I would go to sleep watching YouTube videos just on, wrestling stuff where they just sit and shoot interviews. Even the ones I've seen, it's just fun. Or the WWE documentaries they produce, but lately it's just been Michael Jordan stories. It's been just a rabbit hole, and it's so much fun to watch. When you get a chance, you're gonna love The Last Dance.
I can't wait. It's going to be on Netflix, I think, once they're done on ESPN, so that's when I'll get to see it.
Yeah, my son even is into it. So it's been fun.
I heard Bill Simmons was complaining on Twitter that Dennis Rodman isn't very interesting. And that then somebody else, I think it was a reviewer for Vulture, said that somehow The Last Dance had made Dennis Rodman not very interesting.
I haven't seen episode 3 and 4 yet.
Oh, okay.
It's entirely possible. And this could be over long and drawn out, but I don't really care. I just like being in it because it's that. I mean, you talk about probably the greatest dynasty of all time, especially in our lifetime, for sure.
Definitely.
And not to mention the local team. So, it's just going back to that era and reliving it's pretty awesome. But we'll do that another time. Or maybe we'll never do it. You'll experience it another time, I guess.
Yeah.
The True Story of the Kelly Gang.
The True Story of the Kelly Gang stars George McKay as Ned Kelly, the character that Hollywood is attempting, or Australian Hollywood anyway, Aussiewood, if you will, has tried to make into a movie a number of times. Mick Jagger played him in a very embarrassing biopic in 1970. Heath Ledger played him in 2003 to middling results. And here again, another failure in trying to bring this legend to life. Here's the thing. Let's say you and I made a movie and what we're going to star in the film, the two of us, and then we invite a friend to play a supporting character, and our friend just happens to be Christian Bale. You think maybe the balance might be a little bit off in terms of how well that works? Well, that's what happens here, because George McKay, who's a nice actor, he's a talented kid. He was very good in 1917, and he has moments here that are quite good. But you put him on screen against Charlie Hunnam, Russell Crowe, Essie Davis, and Nicholas Hoult, and he looks like an amateur. He doesn't hold up his side of that star power bargain. It is a massive mistake to put him in a scene, or that little kid, the little kid who plays the character initially, Ned Kelly, in a scene with Charlie Hunnam, or in a scene with Russell Crowe. That you're just not going to, it's not going to work. Every time they're on screen, I want to be where they are. I wanted to be where Charlie Hunnam was. I wanted to be where Russell Crowe was. And the story's not about them. It's about Ned Kelly. And Ned Kelly's not all that interesting.
Right. So
Russell Crowe and Charlie Hunnam, by the way, are incredible in this movie. They're both just movie stars. I'm like, those guys are awesome, and I wanted to just watch everything that they did. Russell Crowe's kind of over the top and broad, but he's awesome at it. Mm-hmm. And Charlie Hunnam, one of the best, most engaging actors working, who does not get nearly the kind of roles he deserves. He's amazing. And then Nicholas Hoult, he's a kid who can be broad and entertaining, and he's attractive, and he's just more interesting in his scenes. And Essie Davis from The Babadook is just a better actress. I don't know. It threw off the whole balance of the movie. Then you've got a director who's trying to do a lot of visual trickery to try and dress this up and make it more interesting than it is. And in the end, I just didn't care.
That's about how I feel. You got these actors that you care about that come and go, and you want to follow them, and you can't. And so then you got to start up again, and then you find someone else you like, and you want to follow them, but you can't. And so you just keep getting let down. And then by the time you get to the big finale, you're just you're exhausted by just boredom. I don't know, boredom's word. You've been teased 4 times now, and you're not going where you want to go, and you don't care anymore. And that's where, and I don't know if that's an Australian thing. I was starting to wonder that, just because of some of the, even the classic to an extent, a little bit different. At least the star of the movie is the star of the movie. But I just was bored after a while because it wasn't following the people that I wanted it to follow, like you said. And it just, there's such a lull. The middle part, the long middle part. It's not a long movie. It's 2 hours long, but it felt like it was the fucking Irishman. And I think it's because of what you said. It's because you kept teasing us with Charlie Hunnam and Russell Crowe and Essie Davis and not giving us that the whole time. And that just really ruined the experience. At the same time, I don't know that if I maybe it works in a theater. It's hard to say. It didn't work for me at home at all. I can't imagine it working in a theater, but I'll at least say it might have. I don't know. I don't know. I just was kind of bored, and I felt bad for being bored.
Yeah, I don't think this could work for me on a big screen either. I just I'm just far more interested in what the movie doesn't do, which is wherever Russell Crowe goes off to, a guy who's so badly gut shot he can't even eat food anymore. He just drinks whiskey. Like, he's just so damn interesting. He's trying to get an 11-year-old kid to shoot some guy's nuts off. Like, what are you doing next? Can I go with you? This kid isn't particularly interesting. I just want to see who you're going to murder next.
Well, even the song he writes midway at the beginning of the movie is entertaining. But this is all early on. And so I'm telling you, that whole middle third to 2/3 is really a letdown and boring. And
it takes forever for him for George McKay to get on screen as Ned Kelly. And even then, he wastes another 15 minutes of screen time, 15, 20 minutes of screen time being resistant to being the criminal legend that we're told that he is, that by the time we get to, I think it's almost the final act when he's finally embraced insanity and, starting to do the things that Ned Kelly was known for. It's like, who cares by this point? This has already become tedious and my favorite characters aren't in the movie anymore.
I'll be honest, at one point I was like, you know what, I'm going to fast forward 10 minutes and see what happens. The next thing you know, they're going to shoot out in a train. And I'm like, okay, I missed something, but at least there's some action.
Visually interesting, at the very least, but not nearly enough.
All right, let's see here.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event for the linear, legitimate, and universally recognized, undisputed classic.
The Proposition.
Yes, The Proposition from 2005, directed by John Hillcoat and written by musician Nick Cave from Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. Stars Guy Pearce as Charlie Burns and Ray Winstone as Captain Stanley. Captain Stanley is the British soldier who's come to this Australian backwoods area intending to civilize it. And to do so, he needs to take down the Burns gang. Charlie, along with his insane older brother, who is that? Danny Houston. And they've got two younger brothers as well. They've just literally murdered and raped an entire family as we join the story. And we join it in the midst of a gunfight in which Ray Winstone's soldiers are just shooting the hell out of this place where Pierce and his little brother are holed up. The proposition at the center of the story is that instead of arresting Guy Pearce after that shootout has ended, he offers him the opportunity to go off into the woods and find his older brother, who is much more dangerous and crazy than Charlie is, Arthur Burns, Danny Houston's character. And he accepts, with the caveat, of course, that his little brother is going to be held in jail and hung on Christmas Day unless he delivers his older brother. And that's the central tension of the movie. Guy Pearce is off to try and find his brother and recover him and perhaps bring him in. And Ray Winstone is dealing with the people under his command who don't necessarily trust him because he made this deal with this Charlie Burns, who's, again, a member of the Burns gang, a very dangerous group who they feel maybe he shouldn't have made this deal with. I really like this movie a lot. It's gritty, it's ugly, it's nasty, it's brutal, it's violent, and it for me is the kind of gritty Western that I really enjoy.
And I feel like it's maybe a movie I need to rewatch on a different circumstance. When you're trying to cram a bunch of movies into a weekend, and I don't know. My wife's at home alone pretty much throughout the week, and I have to work, and then I finally convinced her to watch movies for the podcast. Normally I have to watch them alone, and she wasn't enjoying them. At the same time, I like movies like Bone Tomahawk, which takes its time, and is gritty and violent, and I like a lot of those Clint Eastwood, High Plains Drifter, and a movie I should like. It was a struggle to get through. I watched it also really late at night, so it's really the circumstances. I think this movie definitely takes its time, but at the same time, it wasn't so much that I was bored like I was with the True Story of Kelly Gang. It was just more I was tired and I wanted the movie to. I just wanted to enjoy all of it, but like in 15 minutes instead of the regular runtime. It's not fair, Every now and then you just have those experiences, and it just happens to be the mindset you're in when you watch it, and that's where I was with this, and I feel bad about that. But I definitely think it's a better movie than the True Story of the Kelly Gang. I just a bad timing. I apologize, Guy Pearce. I do think I would like it, because if I like a movie like Bone Tomahawk, which is a very long movie but pays off, I don't know why I wouldn't like this. So I don't know.
I really like this a lot. I love how dirty and nasty it is, and it takes its time to do what it does. But along the way, these characters are really interesting. Ray Winstone and Guy Pearce are hard men, and Danny Houston is wild and crazy and insane and psychotic, and in a role that really Danny Houston doesn't get to play, which I really enjoyed, because he's usually the buttoned up bad guy, and here he gets to be the kind of crazy loose JT Walsh level bad guy. He gets to chew the scenery. I like that. Not that he doesn't chew the scenery in everything he does, but here he gets to do it with long hair and dirty. I enjoyed that. I like the civilizing element of Emily Watson, as well as the wife of Ray Winstone's character, who's created this almost civilized oasis in the middle of the Australian outback that is separate from even the town in which her husband is the captain. It's his home seems like it's a million miles away from everything else, but it's also like really well appointed and expensive looking, and it feels like this modern element in the middle of nowhere, and that is such a wonderful contrast to the Burns gang that's living in a fucking cave in the middle of the outback, and then you've got the town, which is just all dirty and dusty and people covered in dirt and blood and gross. Yeah, I loved it. Well, the score. The score is incredible.
Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime, so if you're looking for something to do, it's there to go watch it. Maybe I'll try to watch it again. You know what? Now that I don't think I finished it, and that might be part of the problem too. Now that because I put it on at 11 o'clock at night, and I remember it was about 12:30, and I went to bed, and I think there was still half an hour left, so I probably need to finish it, and maybe my opinion will change.
Do you know much about Nick Cave?
No, I don't. Not really.
I tried to listen to some of the bad seeds this week, and it's not my kind of music, but boy, does his music really fit this score. The stuff that he does with the bad seeds is basically a lot of what he does here, which is a lot of it's not quite industrial, but it's really like just it's what dank must sound like. Like it's harsh and mean sounding, and that's kind of and inaccessible, and that's definitely their style of music for sure. And he brings that here with an extra little bit of Western flavor, and it's really great.
Yeah, what genre are you? The inaccessible one.
I actively don't want you to listen to my music.
Those people exist, though.
I'm telling you, that's what Nick Lowe is. 6 minutes of just industrial noise. Songs about cabins in the mountains.
All right. 1990, we had 4 movies come out. Want to start with Space Invaders?
Oh yeah, let's talk about Space Invaders, because who doesn't remember and love this movie? Barely.
I hated it at the time.
I had to look this movie up, and once I did, I felt bad that I did, because then I remembered what it was and hated it that much more. This is a kids movie. Aliens land in a small town in Illinois, and fuck this movie.
Yeah, I feel like my mom tried to shove it down our throats when we were kids, and maybe my brother liked it. I can't remember, but I was of that age where I wanted like Ninja Turtles and not this. I was growing up, and this is too childish for me.
Oh, it's so stupid. Like, one of the aliens talks like Jack Nicholson the whole time, because aliens apparently have been listening to our media all these years before they were. Oh God, just unwatchable.
Then we got The Guardian, William Friedkin.
Yeah, I actually was not able to get to this movie. I didn't. So I wanted to, because I was fascinated by the idea of Friedkin. So I don't really know anything about this movie.
Yeah, if there was one to watch, it would have been this one, and then you just run out of time. Because Friedkin, he never really disappoints. I mean, he gives you an experience no matter what.
Yeah.
Then there's Q&A, which is an Alan Smithy movie. Originally directed by Sidney Lumet.
This one's one of the more uneven efforts by Lumet. Dirty cop shoots a man, plants a gun on him. The rookie DA tries to investigate and catch him, and it's a game of cat and mouse between the dirty cop and the kid, and there's the kid DA, and Armand Asante's in there, and yeah.
One of the best. It might be the first time we mentioned his name on this podcast, I think.
Is it? Is that nobody's ever said Armand Asante on the show before?
Well, Assassin's hasn't come out yet. Or was it Judge Dredd? I don't remember. Anyway, Wild Orchid, Mickey Rourke.
Oh, man, do I have memories of this movie. Oh, yeah. This is basically pornography. Rachel Otis and Mickey Rourke, directed by Zalman King, who created the Red Shoe Diaries, also porn. And this is a sex movie. That's pretty much all I remember about it. I remember it being on Cinemax late at night, and I remember as a teenager, being 14 years old when this movie came out. I watched this in a very particular fashion that maybe only lasted a couple minutes.
I was more into the TNA comedies, so I missed. I mean, I was aware of Red Shoe Diaries and all, but I just was more into those Loose Screws. And
if it was a month where they weren't showing hard bodies, I watched this.
I missed a lot of the Mickey Rourke pornos, the 9.5 Weeks and
Angel Eyes.
Yeah, I did see that one. Oh, no, I thought you said Angel Heart. Never mind.
Oh, yeah, Angel Heart. That's what I meant.
That was rated X, wasn't it? Oh, man. But, yeah, that's...
Like, I'm going to box, and I'm going to do porn, and then we're going to boxing, and then I might return to acting, Then
I'll do Iron Man 2. Next week, we've got, for sure, The Wretched... and Dark Side of the Ring. I don't know which one this one's about off the top of my head, but
I don't either.
Hopefully it's more interesting than the last two. Classic, we're going to shoot for Videodrome unless, for whatever reason, that's not available. And then in 1990, Tales from the Dark Side and Short Time came out. So that's what we'll have on the podcast next week. And who knows what's going to come out on Netflix or Amazon, so that will change as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure. The Lovers might be May 1st, I think. Maybe.
Oh, that'd be nice. That's one I wanted to see in the theater, so that would be exciting.
Yeah, I'm not exactly certain on the date, but it might be this Friday.
All right, cool. Well, you ready for Flick Chart?
Yeah.
All right. Dead Poet Society, It's a Wonderful Life.
Dead Poet Society. I'm so tired of It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah, it's weird to say you're tired of a Jimmy Stewart movie, but that's the one I. That said, I haven't gone since kind of rediscovering Jimmy Stewart on the podcast. I have not gone back to watch that movie since we started this podcast, so maybe I'll have a different appreciation for it. I don't know. Three Kings, Jerry Maguire.
Oh man, that is tough. Oh my God, that's all downright mean-spirited to try and choose between those two movies.
Yeah, I don't know that I can. I mean, I feel like I equally like each for different reasons. That's like, I'd almost say Three Kings is a better movie, but I'd probably watch Jerry Maguire maybe. I don't know.
I'm going to say Three Kings just because I think it is, from a filmmaking standpoint, I think it's stronger.
I think you're right.
Yeah, Three Kings because Secret Garden exists, and that is the worst Springsteen song of all time.
Fair enough.
Literally wrote 800 words about that. Why that's the worst Springsteen song of all time.
And I'm gonna go with you. Final Destination 2, Valkyrie. It's like it's Valkyrie, right? But I think I'd watch Final Destination 2.
I mean,
Isn't that kind
Final
of...
Destination 2 is better than Valkyrie, so
yeah.
Not that Valkyrie's bad. It's just it promised a lot and didn't really live up to it.
Right. This is weird. Beavis and Butthead Do America, The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug.
That's Beavis and Butthead all the way.
Ocean's 11, 1960. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, 1990.
Oh, it's TMNT all the way.
Yeah.
That movie is a goddamn revelation.
Superman, 1978. Live and Let Die.
Oh, brutal. That is brutal. Both those movies suck. Fuck, I don't know. Superman.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been my pick. I do like the song, I guess. The Martian, Gladiator.
The Martian for me.
I think I'm going to go with you. I'd like the Gladiator okay, but Almost Famous got fucked over, so. The Big Lebowski, Shanghai Noon.
Big Lebowski.
Moneyball, History of Violence. This is hard for me.
It's not for me. I'm not a big history of violence. Wait. I was thinking American History X. I love History of Violence. What am I thinking?
I'm thinking American History X.
Yeah. What were the options?
It was Moneyball, History of Violence, and I think I love Moneyball too much, almost, maybe.
Yeah. Gosh, I mean, because I love A History of Violence. I'll probably even watch A History of Violence again because it is that good. But if you ask me tomorrow if I've got to nail it down and watch one, I'm going to watch Moneyball.
Yeah, they're both movies I'd watch again. I will watch again, but I'm with you. I think Moneyball's really, 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 really good. The Muppets, 2011. Behind Enemy Lines, 2001.
The Muppets.
Agreed. Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, A League of Their Own.
A League of Their Own.
Yeah, I go baseball every time.
That's just it's a really good movie, and I like the Potter movies. But if you're putting one up against any one of them up against A League of Their Own, I always love A League of Their Own as a better movie.
Yeah. Glory, Orange County.
Shit. I know Glory's better. I know. But I love Orange County.
Yeah, I don't really ever want to watch.
County for me.
I don't ever want to watch Glory again, really.
Right.
Especially now that 89's come and gone. I don't have to deal with it again. Point Break, 1991. 16 Candles, 1984.
16 Candles all the way for me.
I hate to make you flip it. I just don't like John Hughes movies. But you won.
Right.
You won the coin toss. Or the coin toss.
Okay.
Here we go again. Schindler's List or Twins?
Schindler's List.
We just need to go every week until we get to Schindler's List.
It does tend to shut down many conversations.
The Score, 7 Days in Hell.
I don't know what 7 Days in Hell is.
That's that HBO tennis movie with Andy Samberg.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't see that.
All right, The Score with Edward Norton, Robert De Niro, and Marlon Brando, or Freddy versus Jason.
Freddy
It's Freddy
versus Jason.
I hate to say that, but I think it's.
I mean, that movie is super entertaining.
And The Score is super let down with that cast.
Yes.
Three Musketeers, Men in Black 2.
Which Three Musketeers?
The one with the Bryan Adams, Rod Stewart, Sting.
Oh, yeah, then go with the other, whatever the other movie is. Whatever the
About a Boy, Scarface.
About a Boy.
Yeah. Match Point, Black Hawk Down.
Match Point. But Black Hawk Down is awesome, but Match Point is incredible.
Agreed. Basic Instinct, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
Harry Potter.
I'm making you flip just because you win again. The Man with the Golden Gun, The Blair Witch Project.
Blair Witch.
London Has Fallen, The Last Action Hero.
Last Action Hero.
Black Swan, The Birds.
Ooh, that's a good one. That is a really good one. Black Swan.
I agree. I think there's a few other Hitchcock movies I'd pick over it, but The Birds isn't one of them. Bean, Good Morning Vietnam.
Good Morning Vietnam. I hate Mr. Bean.
All right, here's a good one to go out on. Bubble Boy or Street Fighter? Two movies I have not seen.
Two movies I have seen. Give me back my life. Bubble Boy.
All right, never mind. One more, because this one's a challenging one, I think. The Town or The Hangover?
Ooh, that is good. Man, it's The Town for me. I think that movie is desperately underrated and more people need to see it.
I agree with you. All right, that's our show. Anything else before we go?
Just check out my sideline as a music critic. I'm sharing a few of those on the Facebook page where I'm writing about top 40 music because there aren't enough movies to write about. I most recently kind of tore into 21 Pilots' new single, and I found myself really enjoying Kelly Clarkson and John Legend. So I guess I'm pretty square on this, but hey, what are you going to do?
Do you like the new Fiona Apple?
I have not had a chance to dig into Fiona Apple yet. I've been sticking strictly to the top 40s to try and hit what people are willing to click on, and I haven't hit on Fiona Apple yet.
Pretty neat. I'd recommend it. I mean, it's not top 40, but it's. I was kind of shocked by it. I'm not a huge fan of that, but I don't know. We were just hanging out by the campfire, and my wife wanted to hear it, so I bought it and we listened to it. And I was like, "This is pretty neat." It's just neat to hear instruments, which you don't get to hear much anymore. So for that alone, I found it pretty neat.
I'm definitely want to check it out. I'm definitely trying to figure out other ways to do music reviews, and so maybe I'll figure out a way to give myself a reason to listen to that. I will say that for great music. I was surprised that The Weeknd, the recent number one, "Blinding Lights," is an incredible song. Like, it is really, really good. That one and Post Malone's new song "Circles" is absolutely awesome. It's one of the best pop songs I've ever heard. So those two surprised me. There's a song by a woman named Doja Cat that is absolutely unlistenable. I can't even imagine how that's in the top 40. I don't know why anybody would want to subject themselves to something like that. And then Drake has a new song called "Tuesday Slide," which is basically just the antithesis to art. It's everything art is not, is what that song is.
Yeah, I know a couple of those names. I'm getting old. I'm aware of Post Malone's name. I don't know much about him. You hear the Spider-Man song. That's all I really know.
You saw him in that Mark Wahlberg movie a couple weeks ago.
Yes, I did see that. And I got to see him stand next to Aerosmith when they played Toys in the Attic on the MTV Awards. But that's about all I really know him for.
He's weird, but this song "Circles" is amazing.
Well, I think the Spider-Man song was pretty good. The Sunflower, whatever the hell it was called, a few years back. You'd recognize it if you heard it.
Probably.
All right. That's our movie podcast, our music podcast.